What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily. So the Apple Watch has been out for a full week now. I've had a chance to use it every single day the last 7 days, and I think it's time I give my full review on it. So without further ado, here is my full review of the new Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is Apple's first entirely new product since the introduction of the iPad in 2010. And just like with the iPad, Apple is entering an area of the technology market that seems to be untapped. The wearables market is small, and with the Apple Watch, Apple could potentially not only take the lead, but also revolutionize and revitalize the market as a whole. The Apple Watch has been one of the most hyped products by not only Apple themselves, but also the press, and it'll really be interesting to see how the Apple Watch fares in the coming months. Now, for the purposes of this review, I'll be using the 42mm Apple Watch Sport, but most of what I say in this review can be applied to the stainless steel Apple Watch and even the Apple Watch Edition as well, aside from things like the band and materials, of course. But for its features and functionality, your experience should be the same across the board. So just as you would expect from any other Apple product, the build quality of the Apple Watch is great. The Apple Watch Sport is composed of 7000 series aluminum, and the watch has a nice weight and solid feel to it. The right side houses what Apple has dubbed the Digital Crown, which is an exceptionally smooth dial and button combination that controls a lot of the functionality of the watch. Below the Digital Crown is a single button that will bring up a list of your favorite friends and contacts. The rest of the Apple Watch has a really clean and simple design, with the only other noticeable things being a small microphone hole and two small speaker holes on the left side, which produce decent sound for such a small device. Located on the underside of the Apple Watch is a magnetic inductive charging area, as well as a number of sensors that are used to track your heart rate. The heart rate sensors work with the fitness apps and are also used when sending your heartbeat as a message to your friends. The Sport Band is a soft rubber material that feels surprisingly premium and has Apple's unique loop mechanism, which is a little strange at first but definitely works out well. The bands are easily removable and interchangeable via a small button on the back side of the watch that releases the connection and slides in and out, which is a nice feature for those of us who will want to change up the bands often. Obviously, the white band did end up attracting some dirt and marks over time from normal use, but these were all easily cleaned off. My only slight concern with the band is the gap where you slide one end of the band into the other. It feels solid enough, but the thin connections on either side and the fact that it's already developed a permanent bend from use make me think it won't look too pretty in a few months, either from creases or tearing completely. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised with the Sport Band itself, as it really was nice for being the lowest cost option. Apple has created a brand new magnetic inductive hockey puck shaped charger for the Apple Watch that sits nicely underneath it. It's a little bigger than you'd expect, but obviously serves its purpose well. The only thing about charging the Apple Watch is the fact that it would make a lot more sense charging from a nice stand rather than laying flat on a table or desk, but a lot of companies are already starting to release some third-party stands and charger combinations. From the day Apple first announced the Apple Watch, battery life has been a big topic of concern, but after using the Apple Watch every day from morning until night, I can safely say battery life isn't an issue. I was easily able to go 15 or 16 hours using the Apple Watch throughout the day and would still end up with 20 or more percent left. Obviously, this changes if you're constantly using the built-in apps as much as you would on your phone, but for glancing at notifications and opening up a few apps throughout the day, you really shouldn't have a problem with battery life. Of course, you can also use Power Reserve mode, which will extend battery life up to a couple days, but with very limited functionality. The Apple Watch Sport's crystal clear AMOLED display is covered in ION-X glass, while the stainless steel Apple Watch and Apple Watch Edition get a sapphire crystal covered display. The ION-X glass has held up quite well with no noticeable marks or scratches. Granted, I didn't do any official heavy scratch or drop tests, but for normal day-to-day use it should be more than fine. Even at a relatively small size, the screen is easy to read and is bold and bright even outdoors. What's most disappointing though is the large bezels that frame the screen itself. Due to the Apple Watch's entirely black theme, the black bezels are disguised well and give the appearance of an edge-to-edge screen. However, in apps that show a bright background, you really see just how large the bezels are. Obviously, the large bezels aren't a deal breaker as they don't affect day-to-day use, but I definitely expect them to be smaller or non-existent in future generations. Obviously, the most important feature on the Apple Watch is notifications, and they're handled really well. The haptic engine feels like a gentle tap on your wrist, and notifications show up quickly and are easy to read. You can respond to them immediately, save them for later, or dismiss them, and you can choose which notifications you want showing up from certain apps. When you're actively using your iPhone, the notifications won't show up on your watch, but anytime your phone is asleep, all notifications that you have turned on will be sent to the watch. Because the Apple Watch doesn't have any kind of keyboard support, responses are limited to the suggested preset ones, or you can use your voice with Siri to record speech to text or a voice message. The watch also recognizes when you lift your wrist up to look at the screen, which is actually a lot more accurate than I expected. Double tapping on the screen also activates it as well. Apple has advertised the Apple Watch as its most personal product yet, but I'd have to say personalization via customization options are a little slim. Apple does have a fair selection of pre-made watch faces to choose from, and you can modify a few features of some of the watch faces to display certain widgets you'd like to see, like weather, battery percentage, and activity. However, you can pretty much run through all of the options across all the watch faces and still not come up with something you're entirely happy with. Apple has also said that they will deny any apps that tell time or clash with its current selection of watch faces, so I guess we're going to have to wait for Apple to release new watch faces and options on their own time. With all that being said, there are still a nice selection of watch faces available, and you can put a decent amount of information on the screen or even go for a completely minimalistic look. One minor inconvenience with the Apple Watch is the fact that you're pretty limited in changing the settings directly from the watch itself. You have some basic things you can modify like brightness and time, but a vast majority of the settings are found in the Apple Watch app on the iPhone. This includes all the individual app settings and any third-party apps you have installed as well. I completely understand why Apple did this, as the Apple Watch isn't a powerhouse device with crazy specs or storage to handle it all, and working on such a small screen for so long changing around a whole bunch of settings would be annoying, but it kind of takes away from the experience of using and customizing the watch. Apps on the Apple Watch run in their simplest, most basic form, which isn't a bad thing at all. You're given only the vital information specific to each app, and everything is set up in a really clean fashion. A majority of the apps have more to them than meets the eye, either by using the digital crown to scroll through them or by force touching to reveal some hidden commands. And the fact that the apps aren't always explicit or intuitive means that the Apple Watch has a little bit of a learning curve and definitely takes some time getting used to, but I was pretty impressed with how much each app packed. Even third-party apps like Twitter and Instagram could pretty much be fully used directly from the watch to almost their fullest potential. I think this is where the Apple Watch has its biggest chance to shine, as developers will really be able to integrate some great things with the watch. The only frustrating thing is the fact that a lot of major companies like Spotify and Facebook have been slow to add Apple Watch support to their apps, but I think over the next couple of months we'll really start to see developers utilizing the Apple Watch to its fullest potential. One thing to note is the fact that the apps running on the Apple Watch are working directly from your iPhone, so a lot of the time you'll get some lag or delay in using the apps, which is frustrating as things aren't as snappy as they would be on the iPhone. One of the biggest features on the Apple Watch is its health and fitness support. There are a number of apps such as Activity and Workout that allow you to not only track casual day-to-day steps, mileage, and calories, but also allow you to track full workouts and get more in-depth stats like your heart rate. I found that the Workout app is pretty accurate in tracking mileage, steps, and calories, and I think a lot of people can really utilize the workout features in their day-to-day life. Having the Apple Watch with you while you work out also lets you keep your phone pretty much out of sight, as your notifications will be pushed to the watch, and you can control things like music directly from the watch using Bluetooth headphones. One feature that Apple has advertised heavily is the ability to send messages and emojis to friends who also have Apple Watches. It's kind of a novelty thing and a little bit gimmicky, and obviously it's pretty useless if no one you know also has an Apple Watch, but it does add a fun and more personal element to the watch, even though it's personally not something I use every day. You're able to draw custom pictures and messages in different colors that disappear after they're opened and read. You can also send taps that will be felt on the wrist of the person you send them to via the haptic engine, and you can also send your heartbeat that will be felt in the same way. You also have the option to send a whole bunch of new animated emojis, including smiley faces, hearts, and hand gestures. You can scroll through the different styles and options via the digital crown and force touch on the screen to change the different colors of each emoji. Again, this is really just another novelty feature and probably won't be used much, especially not for day-to-day conversation. It's more of the type of thing you use for like the first hour you get the watch and you don't really use again. But the nice thing about these emojis is the fact that they do actually show up as full-size images in the iPhone Messages app. Overall, I have to say I really do like the Apple Watch. Its quality is unmatched and the overall potential is definitely there. Obviously, it does have its flaws, and to be completely honest, the Apple Watch is definitely not for everyone. If you're the kind of person who has always worn a watch and wants to add a more technology-centered device to your wrist, this is probably for you. But if you've never been into regular watches, I just can't see justifying spending the money. The Apple Watch certainly isn't a standalone product with groundbreaking features. It's an accessory at best, at least right now, which is also why I have a really hard time getting over the crazy price tag. At $349 for the cheapest sport model, this thing really puts a dent in your wallet. And if you want the stainless steel Apple Watch or a few extra bands, you can end up spending over $1,000. The Apple Watch has a lot of room for improvement, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for it. But for now, I don't think the Apple Watch is targeted towards the general consumer just yet. Wearables are certainly still a niche item, and I think it'll be a while before they become mainstream, but I do believe Apple is headed on the right track. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. If you have any further questions or comments about the Apple Watch, definitely let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the Tech Daily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.